Welcome to another exciting episode of the Only Women Entrepreneurs podcast, also known as O. Here we're dedicated to equipping aspiring females with the tools to succeed by talking to powerful women who have forged their own paths in life and alternative careers. I'm Rosemary Cescolini, your host, a former high school English teacher who decided to drastically alter my career path and enter the world of manufacturing at a family-owned business called Royal Door Limited. There, I worked for over 30 years, crafting custom handmade wood doors that have been featured in construction and renovation magazines, Netflix TV shows, HGTV, and Hollywood movies. Now, I run O, an organization dedicated to helping women thrive in the business world and alternative careers. Join me as we discover the lessons and wisdom learned from successful women. So without further ado, let's learn about our guest today. I am incredibly excited to have someone who I admire and look up to as a business leader, a role model, and a mentor. Our very special guest today is Natalie Jill. She's not only a fitness and health guru, but also has a high-performance coach who's on a mission to reshape our perspectives on age, potential, and what's achievable. Natalie hosts one of the top self-help podcasts, Midlife Conversations, has written 2 best-selling books, Aging in Reverse and 7-Day Jumpstart, Unprocess Your Diet, and has received recognition from numerous organizations like Forbes, Greatist, as a top health and wellness influencer. She's appeared on countless TV shows, magazine covers, and podcasts. She's an expert at helping people reach their goals, crafting compelling stories, expanding personal brands, and excelling on social media. Her passion is helping people reach their highest potential in every aspect of their lives. Welcome to the old podcast, Natalie.
Thanks for having me, Rosemary.
Okay, there's basically 2 reasons why I asked Natalie to come on the show. Number 1, to tap into her expertise as an entrepreneur, and 2, to talk about why it's important to be both physically and mentally fit to achieve success, both in an alternative career or as a business owner. But before we dive into all that, let's get started with a little bit of your background and journey. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your education, where you're from?
Sure. So I grew up in Washington, D.C. I'm 52 at the time of this recording. And I bring that up because I've had so many different iterations of my life, my career, what I've stood for, who I've been, who I've helped over the years. But taking it back, 16 years ago now, I was in corporate America. I was doing all the things you're supposed to do on the checklist. I had gone to college. I had the corporate career. I thought I was doing pretty well in life until I had a massive setback. Now, if you remember what was going on in 2007, 2008, we were in a financial crisis. Our country was, at least. We had a huge downturn of the financial economy. Housing market had crashed, stock market had crashed. Why was this relevant to this story? Well, I was also pregnant, having a baby. And I found myself getting a divorce while I was pregnant, and having a baby, and losing my house at the same time, because of what was happening in the world. And for the first time in my life, I found myself super depressed, super scared, not recognizing my own body. I gained 60 pounds when I was pregnant, which might not sound a lot to some of you listening, but I'm 5'2". My daughter weighed 6 pounds when she was born. So it was an excessive amount in eating from stress and not moving my body. And I was in my own personal rock bottom. And I remember being that type of depressed where I didn't want to get out of bed every day. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to even get dressed. I didn't want to do anything. And I was just sort of getting through life because I was a new mom. And I had this pivotal moment, which I'm going to bring up now because it's so important to anyone that's listening, no matter what you're navigating, where I had this thought about our circumstances versus possibility. Circumstances happen all the time. Time of this recording, there's circumstances happening in the world. There's always going to be circumstances that we can't control. But I remember having this thought, do I want the circumstances to define my life, or do I want to create a new possibility? And I remember having that thought and going for a walk that day with my baby in the stroller and my 2 dogs. And I caught this glimpse of myself in one of those windows that you have like a mirror reflection looking back. Right. And I just had this like human moment with myself of, is this what you want? Is this where we end up? Like, we're going to be overweight, depressed. At the time I was 35, 36. Is this where we end up, or do we want to create something else? And in that pivotal moment, I turned and started walking home. And I remember as I was walking home, I kept having that voice, that voice, Rosemary, the one that's like, you can't, you're too old, you're too late, you're too this, you're too that. And I had that voice and I kept saying, but what if, but what if, but what if there's something else, but what if there's something else? And from that time that I turned looking at that window till the time I got home, I had made a firm decision that I wanted something else for my life and I was going to create something else for my life. And I share that story because it was in those moments and in that change of decision that I was able to start changing my body, start changing my life. And now fast forward, have impacted, hundreds of thousands of women because of my decision and what I changed and what I started to stand for.
And that's so important because I'm finding that situation becoming more and more of a regular practice because of the pandemic and how it's emotionally scarred us worldwide. I'm seeing a generation that's lost, that is depressed, that they don't have the will to go on. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here today hosting this podcast, because I had a great ride. I had 30 great years. I just had that pivotal moment when I regretfully had to leave the teaching profession because we had a new government and they were changing the school curriculum, and I didn't believe in what they wanted us to teach. And I was true to my students. I took my responsibility very seriously, that I was a sculptor. I was a Da Vinci or Michelangelo, and I had these young minds to mold and create, and I wanted to prepare them for the real world, and I wasn't able to. So it actually crushed me at that point. But going on to the family business where I was uplifted and I was able to learn a new craft, really emboldened and enlightened me. And I was ready to call it a career, but I'm seeing it with friends of my children. I have 4 adult children, and my kids are doing well. They're adjusted and they're out there and they're killing it every day. But a lot of their friends, they finished university and they're still finding themselves and they don't have purpose. So that's why I'm here today, to share stories that are important like yours, to say, hey, it doesn't matter what stage in life you are at, you will be able to pick up the pieces and move on and create a new story for yourself.
Yes. And I think it all starts with a decision. I mean, literally, I was feeling the weight of the world on me. And I tell this to women all the time. I work with women all the time that have lists of circumstances, and they're all very real. Diagnoses, genetics, things going on in their life. There's all these things are real. I don't dismiss any of them. They're very real, but we have a choice in any given moment to make a decision. Do we want to let this define us, or do we want to find something else? It's just like the old, depending on when you're listening to this and what's going on in your world or the world. It's just like watching the news. We can every day turn on the news and get sucked down rabbit holes and feel depressed about world and life and what's going on and woe is me and this is horrible. And it honestly serves nothing other than to make us feel very bad about ourselves and the world and everyone else. Or we can make a decision to do something a little bit more productive, like be aware and what else? Be aware and what else? And I'm challenged myself with this every day too. So I don't say this as an easy thing. So no matter what you're navigating, it could be that diagnosis, it could be that heartache, it could be that financial mess, it could be world events, it could be anything at all. The only thing you absolutely can control is your decision where to focus.
Exactly.
Your decision.
That's well said. Now, I want to dig into a bit your work experience. Natalie, you've had an incredible journey from a sales career at Biomet to a high performance coach at your own business. Can you share the key moments that led to this transformation?
Yeah. So I could go off on a list of credentials. I mean, I've got a Bachelor of Science in Health and Human Performance. I'm a licensed master sports nutritionist. I'm a best-selling author. It doesn't really matter. I'm gonna share that. Credentials to me are things that we check off and have to do. They don't matter to other people. So if you're listening and you're starting a business, or you're wondering, like, how do I break into the world of helping people? And I need this credential and that credential and this degree and that degree. No, what people relate to, buy from, learn from, get better from are people's life experiences and that authenticity around it. I believe that we're all professors of whatever we've navigated. And if you can learn to share your authentic truth and share how you walked through and navigated a problem with a solution, people will relate to you. They'll learn from you. The reason people learned from me and I was able to help countless of women with fat loss is not because of my credentials. Like, yes, absolutely. I'm a licensed master sports nutritionist. I think I'm pretty darn good at it. Yes, I have amazing meal plans and teach great workouts and all of that. That's not what people learned or bought from me. Honestly, they what happened was they related to my personality. They related to what I walked through. Something resonated with them about that. They connected with me, and now they were open to hearing it. If this makes sense. If I was a man,
absolutely,
and I was a lot younger and I never had, like, I wouldn't be as relatable. Right. So I could teach the exact same stuff. You wouldn't have ears to listen. So credentials, they're check marks. They're things that we could have, that we should have. They don't define who you become and how you become a leader in the world.
And there's two really important takeaways from that. Your presentation, the human side of you. And I think that's what everyone is craving, that one-to-one to say, you know what, Natalie's just a person like myself. She struggles. She's had her ups and downs. But if she got over it, you know what, I want to listen. I want to be able to have the same opportunities as Natalie, but show me the way, because you live through those experiences. And that's them. And I share them. And you share them. That's so important to have.
And here's the thing. People sometimes will say, well, people won't care about my story or my journey. No, they do. It depends on how you tell it. People want to see themselves in your journey. You're right. They don't care if it's just you talking at them about your journey, but if they can see themselves in it, they do care.
Correct. And the other important point that I want to just bring up was the credentials. And there's this, I don't know, everyone in society, oh, it's so important to have all your degrees, all your credentials and all that stuff. They're only pieces of paper.
Yes.
Right. And what kills me is I've been asked to do some public speaking for some organizations. And the first thing they asked me was, well, do you have any credentials in manufacturing? And I said, no, I have 30 years of experience. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, you can't speak at the event. So I found that kind of interesting. I go, well, I have 30 years of experience where I can actually put the audience into my shoes and they can relate, but I'm not good enough. And in a way, that is a terrible thing, because a lot of our experiences are not being relayed to the general public. Hence, the power of social media. And that's one of the reasons I have the podcast, because I have a platform and I can, share my experiences with everyone, even though I don't have those credentials that the political forum is looking for. So those are great points that you brought up. So you know that women face a lot of obstacles, not just in everyday life, but in male-dominated fields. So did you ever have these challenges? And if so,
I've had a lot of challenges, I will say. That's not been one of them. Honestly, I know women speak into it. I have not. Sometimes I think it's the filter and the lens we look through too. It's like, what are we looking through? What are we learning? That's not typically been one. I feel in corporate, I did equally as great. I got promoted. I did as well as any man would. I feel in my business, the same thing. I think the difference is that I didn't accept that was an option. It wouldn't work that way. And I do think every female has a feminine and a masculine side of them. For sure. And I think I've been very good at navigating my masculine side in business. So I will say, when it comes to business, I think having that masculine energy and side is actually important. And I think I've done a good job navigating that. And maybe that's why I haven't had that experience.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah. And I know that's not the norm for most women to say, but that's been my experience.
It's not. And then, you know what? It's good to express that. And not all career paths will have those male-dominated fields that they're going to counter obstacles. But I'm glad you shared that as well. So you've got an incredibly successful podcast, Midlife Conversations. I listened to it. Really good advice. I encourage your listeners to tune in and subscribe. So what motivated you at the beginning to start that?
Yeah, great question. So my podcast originally, the very first iteration of it was called Leveling Up. And the reason I started a podcast, and the reason I think anyone should start a podcast, by the way, is it was something I needed for myself. And let me make this really clear. A podcast, the ones that work the best, it's because it's actually really authentic to something you, the host, are learning and wanting to speak on and learn and get better at. So to me, I actually think that's a really good reason to start a podcast, and it's what's going to keep you interested. So my first podcast was called Leveling Up, and I started that because I wanted to understand how people that were successful that had massive setbacks, how did they overcome them?
Right.
How did they overcome massive rock bottom setbacks? Because that's where a place where I was navigating and I wanted to learn. So the reason my podcast started to grow initially was that's what I featured. As that did well, and I, interviewed 50, 60, 70 stories on that topic, I wanted to open up to more conversations. So I then changed it to something called Listen Up. So same channel, same everything, but I just started to broaden the topics. Then, as I am 52 now, as I got into my 50s, what really became relevant to me was really understanding more what midlife women are navigating specifically. So that's when I niched my podcast really specifically to that, which then really matched really what I was doing with health and wellness. So I pivoted my social with health and wellness to midlife as well. And I sort of niched down in all the areas to midlife conversations.
That's an excellent response. I love it. And I feel the passion episode after episode.
Yeah, thank you. And I can't say I wouldn't change it again. Right now, that's what feels right and true to me. I can't say that in a year or 2 years, it wouldn't be something else.
That's great. And, it's ever changing. You just can't keep it static because, like you said, circumstances change and
that's
also
right.
needs. Always all about equipping young women with the tool set to succeed in life. And mindset plays a crucial role in that success. So how has developing a strong mindset contributed to your achievements?
Gosh, you know what, Rosemary? It's literally everything. The day of this recording, to be honest, I almost canceled because I'm consumed with the stuff going on in the world. It's hitting me very close to home for a lot of reasons. And I have to mindset myself into showing up and doing things and getting outside of my head. So I think mindset literally is the most important thing in anything. It could be trivial. It could be big. It is everything. It's what gives us our motivation. It's what gives us our drive. It's what makes us do the things we don't feel like doing. It's what makes us become a leader. It's what allows us to show up as a leader. It's what allows us to make a difference in the world, to help mindset is the most important skill. When people roll their eyes at it, they don't get life. They just don't. It is the most important skill set in anything. What I teach with fat loss is very similar to what I teach with business. We start with mindset. I might not call it that because I know you don't want that. Most people, they don't want that.
To hear that.
But that's what they're going to get with me because they have to learn. We have to learn. I have to learn. I have to practice it to live from a place of decision, to live from a place of operating in possibility, not problem, to live from a place of vision. What do we want to create, not what is? It is everything. It is so critical.
That's great. Just to further elaborate, I know you helped many people shift their mindsets to achieve transformative results. So what are some of the practical steps women can take to develop a winning mindset?
So the biggest practical, there's two I'm going to share. Number one is make decisions often, frequently, continually. Whenever you're feeling like you don't feel like something, you don't want to, you're focused on something, you're focused on the wrong thing, you want to stamp the word decision on your car, on your mirror, on your hand, whatever you need to do. But you can always make a new decision. This morning, I started scrolling social media and it was putting me in a bad place. I could see my mindset going in the wrong direction. And I said to myself, make a new decision. My new decision was, okay, I'm going to put on an audible of something that is something that will get me in a different mood. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to what is your decision? So decision is number one, always make a new decision wherever you are. It's just like it's a hard pivot. It's a hard pivot. This is what is, I'm making a new decision. This is what's happening. I recently moved to Scottsdale, Arizona from San Diego, which is, that was a big loaded decision. I'll tell you 20 years ago in a decision, I moved to San Diego. Absolutely loved living in San Diego for 20 years for a lot of reasons. It was not working for us. A lot of things were stacked up against us. We had black mold in our house and we made a decision that we're going to Scottsdale, Arizona. And here we are. I mean, it happened very quickly. So decision is number one. And then the second practical tool I'll tell people is vision. Always ask yourself, what do I want? Not what is, what do I want? Not how am I going to get there? What do I want? Not is it possible? What do I want? Just ask yourself that question. Stay focused on the vision, what it is you want, not what is.
And vision is so important. That's what got me through the early years when I was a young child. My
Yeah.
parents were immigrants and we were very poor.
Mm.
And, we didn't have the luxuries that other kids had. I didn't get a pair of Nikes until I was
Mm-mm.
25. We just couldn't afford it.
Yep.
But then I would vision myself having those pair of Nikes, Lululemons, all the brand
Yeah.
names.
Yeah.
And I achieved that. It took some
Yeah.
time, but I saw myself. And that is so important
That's
to
exactly
keep
right.
that in your head every single day and enjoy it, savor the moment. And until it
Mm.
becomes reality.
Vision is so critical. And it's very, I know, I recognize when I say this, when I say decision and vision, when we are in circumstance, it is very real. And I don't want to dismiss that to people because I don't mean to say, oh, just pivot to this, because I want to recognize that circumstances like you growing up in poverty, you being an immigrant, that's very real. And I want people to know that there is compassion in that. And I do understand that. The choice is, however, do I say you're right, that sucks, and then you stay there, or do you open up to a possibility of something else? And if you're on board with opening up to a possibility, then you cannot give yourself the choice to stay stuck in circumstance. You have to ask yourself, what do I want? And focus on that vision.
Exactly. And no matter where you find yourself in the world, like you said, there's always choice to have inaction or action. And even if it's a small step today, it's more than what you did yesterday.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
how do you manage stress and maintain a positive mindset in the face of adversity? And
Yeah.
what advice do you have for women who face similar challenges?
So I'm going to say something maybe a little unpopular, but I allow myself to feel it. I do. I think we are human. We are given emotion for a reason. So when I'm feeling that way, it's the time that I'm not necessarily going to be on a platform trying to be a leader or lead. I let myself feel things. Sometimes that's an hour, sometimes it's a day, sometimes it's a week, it might be a month. But I do feel the only way out of things is through them. So we do get to feel things, and that's okay. It's just like a morning. You can't just move on from a loss. You gotta feel it. You gotta go through the stages. So I think with stress, with anxiety, feel it, let yourself process what's going on, and then ask yourself those new questions about decision and vision. But don't beat yourself up because you're feeling and because you're human and you have those moments around that.
So when you take that time out, is it in the form of meditation or do you express it perhaps in physical fitness? Like, how do you
So
channel that?
for me, there's a lot of different ways I could tell you, and I think it's very personal to everybody. But for me, it's connection. I need to connect with others that maybe understand or that can listen and that can help guide me through. So connection for me is really, really important. Meditation is amazing, but if my head is spinning with something that's creating anxiety, I can't meditate. It's like I can't shut it down. I can't even work out if I'm feeling that way. So for me, I've got to talk it through. So connection for me is really critical. This is why I think groups are so important. I think friendships are so important. But I would say number one, connection. And then once you get that out, then do something with your body or meditate or read, or that music is really big for me too. I have a playlist of faith music that I absolutely love, like that just worship music just diverts my attention and I can listen to that and get in a whole different state. So it's whatever works for you, the listener, to change your state.
Yeah, those are amazing strategies. I'm glad you shared them. So physical fitness is often underestimated in its impact on mental well-being. How has fitness been a game changer in your life and career?
Yeah. So, fitness is so important to me, and it's not what people think. Like, I don't spend hours beating myself up and having these deep sweat sessions. Like, I worked out today for 20 minutes. That was it. It's that time of just connecting with your body and making sure you are creating some type of progression and intensity. It's a connect. I more think that fitness is a connection with your body. It's a time to like get in check in on yourself. What am I feeling? What do I need to address? What do I need to move? What do I need to stretch? So it's that check-in state. And then I'm also think it's really critical just to move and be in nature daily. I'm a big walker. Just to be outside, be in nature is so, so important and so underestimated how much value that adds to us.
Okay, that's great. So, for women that are balancing demanding careers, what are some effective strategies for incorporating fitness into their daily routines? You mentioned
You make it a
walking,
non-negotiable. Honestly, you make it a
non-negotiable.
non-negotiable.
Yeah.
So when I happen to be sitting right now, my podcast desk has a chair,
Mm,
but I have a standing desk behind me that I do majority of my work. So I'm
yeah.
standing. I also, any phone call I take, I'm walking or I'm pacing. It's a non-negotiable that I'm going to the gym each day. It's a
Right.
non-negotiable that I'm going for a walk. You have to put it on your calendar and schedule it into your life as a non-negotiable. You wouldn't skip brushing your teeth, I don't think.
Oh,
You wouldn't skip eating your lunch or your dinner. You
oh,
wouldn't skip picking your kid up from school. You wouldn't skip an important meeting. So why are you skipping stuff that's important to your body?
yeah.
So
Something that's
it's making
critical.
it a non-negotiable.
I thought that's a great way to say that.
Yeah.
So, nutrition is a critical aspect of well-being. So, what advice can you give women on maintaining a
Mhm.
balanced and healthy diet while juggling busy
So
professional lives?
I'm a huge fan of, I don't label foods good or bad, but I do say focus on addition of adding in more of the good foods. So when I look at foods, I'm going to ask myself, is this food nourishing and healing me? Or is this just an enjoyable food that I'm just going to enjoy right now? It's not doing anything for me. Or is this food hurting me? I'm going to
Yeah.
literally look at my food and ask myself that. So I'm just aware and conscious of what I'm putting in. And I focus on adding in more of the good that nourishes
Right.
me. So if I want that ice cream that's not so good for me, fine, but I'm going to label it in my mind. Okay, this is just enjoyable right now. But I'm focusing on how do I get in more of the good? What I teach in my programs is eating a natural, unprocessed, real food diet. And what my many clients will tell me is, I didn't realize it could be this simple. Because I do make it simple. I'm not a fan of all the counting macros and like I don't do any of that, counting calories, any of that. I teach unprocessed natural food. I teach people how to make it easy. I teach way of eating that makes us feel empowered and strong and accomplished versus self beat up.
Yeah, I like that strategy. So, Natalie, you've been recognized by Forbes and Greatist as a top health and wellness influencer. How did you build your personal brand, and what role has it played in your success?
Yeah, it's so funny. People ask me this question a lot. How did I build my brand? And I didn't have some like unique strategy. And it's funny because people hire me to help them with theirs, and they can hire me. I'm going to tell them the same thing I'm going to tell you for free right now. It's just if they hire me, I'm going to make sure they actually implement it and that they know how to do it. What I is you be yourself and you do it from a place of power. You literally be yourself. I built my brand initially from sharing on Facebook 16 years ago, sharing what I was working on and why and who it was going to help and how it helped me. And it grew. And I continue to listen to people I follow. I share what I'm walking through. I share from a place of power. I connect with people and I teach them what I've walked through and learned. And then I listen to people. I listen to what they want. I listen to what they need. And I'm very clear who I'm talking to at every given time. My posts, my shares are not meant for everybody. I don't care about appeasing everybody. I'm talking very specifically to the midlife woman who's 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond, who's navigating what I'm walking through. And that's who I'm talking to. If my 35-year-old follower doesn't like it, that's not who I'm talking to.
Exactly. Your social media is so organic and genuine, and that's why a lot of people can relate to it, and hence the followership just keeps growing, and that's amazing. So let's look at a little bit into entrepreneurship. It involves risk taking. So can you share some of the risks you've taken in your career and the lessons you learned from them?
I don't think anything I've done was not a risk, to be honest with you. I'm a constant risk taker, and I have to decide in my mindset that it's not a risk. Otherwise, I'll never do anything. But pretty much everything I've ever done in entrepreneur, leaving corporate, starting a business was a risk. Stopping fat loss for 2 years. I stopped my fat loss programs for 2 years to figure out what I wanted to do with it. That was a risk. Starting a podcast was a risk. Changing the podcast was a risk. Investing in consultants and coaches was a risk. I don't think there's anything I've done that's not a risk, Rosemary.
Well, just being an entrepreneur is taking a risk because you don't have a guaranteed income.
No,
and you have
but
I
don't enter that thought into my head. Like my husband would like me to, but I don't, and being an entrepreneur is up and down. You have months that are amazing. You have months that are not amazing. Like I don't worry about it. I just know that I focus on helping people and being authentic, and it works out.
I call them the seasons of feasting and fasting.
Yes.
So, when you have, like for us, during the pandemic, our business was essential. So we were working 7 days a week, 16 to 18 hours a day. So yes, we were feasting. Now there's so much uncertainty in the world and inflation, higher interest rates, things are starting to slow down. And so this is a time where we're going to be tightening our belts and it's going to be fasting. So definitely it's a big risk, entrepreneurship, and you just got to plan for those days.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So
absolutely.
One of the things that we try to promote is empowering women in their journeys. So what's your advice for women who want to excel in their careers without compromising their well-being and personal lives?
I think it's not creating an either or. They go together. I mean, I wouldn't personally advise anyone to be in a career, have a career, or be a brand that doesn't complement your life.
Okay.
My business gets intertwined with my business. I don't think it's an either or. I don't think they're separate. I am sharing my life. So it's about making sure, is your business actually aligned with your life and what you want? Mm-hmm. Is it aligned with those values? And if it is, it shouldn't create that divide or that problem.
So you've empowered countless women to transform their lives. So can you share a particularly inspiring story that demonstrates the potential for change?
Gosh, I've had so many, but I'll start mostly with all the fat loss stories. I have tremendous track record with helping people release, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 pounds of fat and keeping it off and really changing it. And my ideal person is the type of woman that, honestly, they're in midlife. They could have anything they want. They could buy the bag that they want. They could buy the car that they want, but they haven't been able to achieve the body that they want. And the reason that's my ideal person is I know that they've got it in them to be successful. They've been able to achieve other things. They just need this tweak here. So my success stories, I have so many of them, but it always has, more often than not, it is boiled down to they had to start taking that belief in themselves the way they had in business or the way that they had in other areas of their life. If you've been successful in other areas of your life, but not your body, it's because you've got some deep-rooted things going on that believe that it's not possible for you. So I will tell you, there's not just one. The majority of my success stories were getting women to see and believe in themselves. And sometimes they have to borrow the belief from me first. But once they actually do that, then everything is possible.
Yeah, and we're going back to the mindset and how important that is to have a positive one, right?
Yes.
So many women struggle with self-doubt and imposter syndrome. How can they overcome these mental barriers and step confidently into their careers and entrepreneurial ventures?
Fake it till you make it. Honestly, act as if we're all going to have that stuff. But again, is it serving you? When you walk into the gym, for instance, do you look in the mirror and go, oh, what's wrong with me? Look at those arms. Look at that stomach. Why I shouldn't be here? All these things. Or do you look in the mirror and it's kind of like that movie with Amy Schumer, when you look and you say, wait, I see something different. I see my possibility. I see my potential. I don't coach women into their current circumstance. I coach them into the possibility that I see for them. I see what's possible for them. And that's how I talk to them. You have to operate from your future version of yourself to become that version now. So that's how I treat my clients. I'm going to see their future possibility and I'm going to talk to that person and have them take actions towards that.
That's a great perspective. A critical aspect of always fostering community and building a support network for women. How did you build your own support system, and what advice do you have for others seeking one?
I do feel I have a very amazing support system. And I think it's because I'm constantly building my bus, collecting people on my bus. I'm very open to meeting people and learning, but I'm thinking about, if I'm driving the bus, like, who do I want on that bus? And there's exits along the way and lots of stops, and people can get off if I don't want them there anymore or the ride is over for them. But I'm really thinking, like, how do I collect people throughout the day? How do I collect podcasts that I like, audibles that I like, music that I like, neighbors that I meet, people that I admire, role models, social media accounts, friends. How do I collect those people that lift me up, that level things up? I want the people on my bus that root for me. I want the people on my bus that are not going to get stuck in my circumstances. When I'm in a crappy moment and I'm feeling sorry for myself and I'm feeling terrible, I don't want somebody to say to me, "You're right, that sucks." I want them to go, you're right, that sucks. And what are we going to do about it? And let's do this. And let's move on. And let's create this. And that's what I'm looking for on my bus. Now, somebody listening might say, I don't have any of those people. Then be that person, be that leader, be that person that creates that. If you don't like your circumstances, you can create something else too. So collect people on your bus daily and also give back, be a leader and show what that should look like.
Oh, I'm glad you brought up the leadership point, because the next question just says leadership often involves making tough decisions. And can you describe a challenging decision you had to make and the principles that guided you through it?
Let's see. Gosh, there's so many. But I'll start with number one. I am not opposed to taking people out of my life, friendships. Doesn't mean I don't love them and wish them well and can't be cordial, but they're not going to be in my daily life if they aren't contributing to the world in the way that I do, or the way they don't contribute in my world. Like the way I'm not opposed to that. And people might think that that's harsh, but I just think it's really important. I have text message threads with friends that I've left, just because I thought this is not productive. This is not helping. I don't care about somebody thinking I've hurt their feelings from that. We have one life. We get to run that the way that we want. I just don't think there's space for people that are negatively going to bring you down or bring others down. So it's just being really aware of that. As far as how have I shown up as a leader in areas, I've constantly have to check myself and say, what would a leader do versus what would my emotion do? Because it is very easy to run with emotions and say things because you're triggered, or to do things. But I ask myself, what would a leader do? And a leader would have conversations. A leader would be Switzerland. A leader would be open-minded. A leader would highlight all sides. A leader would ask the right questions. A leader would give fair, equitable chances to a lot of people.
Yeah, that's great. I'm glad you define the leadership qualities for people to look for. And if you can't find them, like you said, you be the leader, because there's a lot of people that
there's a difference between a dictator and a leader. I want to be really clear. Dictators don't do all those things.
No, they don't. They only look after themselves.
Yes.
So the landscape of entrepreneurship is ever evolving. And how do you stay ahead of the curve and continue to adapt to new challenges and opportunities?
I don't know that I'm thinking about it that way. I don't know that I'm like, oh my gosh, this is changing. What's the next opportunity? I think when we focus on just money or opportunity, it doesn't end well.
No.
I instead go, what do people need right now? And where can I show up and support? And I look for win-win situations. So when I started my fat loss business and I was leading with nutrition, people wanted workouts. So that was the next opportunity. What's workouts? After I did a lot of that, people want to know, how do I build a business online? So I focus on that. I'm constantly evolving towards where do people feel right now. I really feel called to these midlife conversations. I'm navigating a lot of stuff being 52. So I can only imagine what other women are navigating. So I feel compelled to speak into that and to speak into that. I never did it because of financial reasons. That would have been a really dumb financial. I gave up a thriving fitness business, cut off all income from it to start something different.
That's brave.
So it was not a smart financial decision, but it's where I felt really strong and where I needed to help and jump in.
And most successful businesses, when they have a cause and they have a purpose,
yes,
the money comes in way later. And
it's
you know
true.
what? It's just a bonus, but you feel good about something that you're passionate about doing. And I concur with that.
Absolutely.
A value that O holds close to is collective growth among women. So Natalie, you like to help others define and reach their visions. What tools or strategies do you use to facilitate personal growth and goal achievement?
Hiring coaches. I always have a coach.
Yeah.
I always am. I'm more often than not looking for the next coach, the next leader, where do I need to level up my life, my skills, get better. I read a lot. I read at least a book a day. I'm a little neurotic when it comes to that. I do listen to them on Audible, but and books that really resonate with me, I listen to 5, 10, 15 times. I don't just listen to it one time. I go through it again and again and again and again, because I believe we have to hear things repetitively. I also very quickly teach what I learn. I add it into whatever I'm doing right away. I think that's important. When we learn things, they're not for us to keep. We get to take those things and teach somebody else too.
Right.
So how do I do that? Those are all the things that I do.
Great. What are some must-have books that you think our audience should read? Do you have one or two titles?
Oh my gosh, there's so many must-have books. Let me just even see what's in my Audible right now. Okay, I love 30 Days to Law of Attraction. Whether you believe in law of attraction or not, I do.
Yes.
I love that's a book I've listened to many, many times. Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. Listened to that probably 25 times.
Yes.
Absolutely love it. Vivid Vision by Cameron Herold. Another really great one about vision. I think it's a must-have. I love Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy's 10 times is greater than 2 times. It's about thinking 10 times bigger than just 2 times and how we get the same. I love Who Not How. That's another one.
Wow.
The Gap in the Game.
Great.
So many great books. Another Dan Martell's Buy Back Your Time was a really great one for this year for me about doing that. Yeah. And then as far as nutrition and workout and all that mindset, I'm going to highly suggest, of course, my 7-day Jumpstart to everybody because I feel like I break it down simply. But as far as advanced books there, I loved Nasha Winner's The Metabolic Approach to Cancer. It's not just for cancer, just this whole way of how our food is affecting our metabolic health.
And where can our audience find your book? Where is it?
Oh, my books can be found and anywhere books are sold. Barnes & Noble, Amazon. You just look up Natalie. Yeah. Audible, all of them. Yes. 7-day Jumpstart and Aging in Reverse are my books.
Okay. So can you share any upcoming projects or goals that you're particularly excited about?
There's not one major, like this is the thing right now, but I would say if you are liking this, I would follow along on my podcast, Midlife Conversations, and follow along on my social media because I'm always announcing there whatever I've got going on next.
That's great. And as you continue to impact lives, what legacy do you hope to leave for future generations of women?
The legacy I hope to leave, it's not about me. I don't care so much about me. About them that Natalie taught me this, or it's more, can I inspire others to operate from vision? Can I inspire others to help lift others up? Can I inspire others to help see a big, more purposeful world? I don't know what listeners' faith is, but I'm a big believer and I have a strong faith. And I feel if I could teach people to live more like that, more where they care for others, they help others, they empower, they lift others up versus looking for the problems and the circumstances and tearing people down. I think that would make me the most happy.
So to wrap up, what's one piece of advice you'd like to give all women listening who aspire to overcome obstacles, excel in their careers, and lead fulfilling lives?
Make a decision right now on any of those topics and just make a different decision from what you've been experiencing and be committed with conviction with that decision.
Fantastic. So for our listeners who want to connect with you, anything social, where can they find you?
Yeah, Natalie Jill Fit on all the social platforms. And then Midlife Conversations is my podcast.
Fantastic. So Only Women Entrepreneurs is dedicated to helping women grow and achieve new heights on their entrepreneurial and alternative career journeys. Explore all of the free resources we have to offer at onlywomenentrepreneurs.com for content tailored specifically for women who want to take their lives to the next level. Here you can also find my personal development and business courses to help you on your journey, whether you want to start a new business or you want to transform your personal life. O can help guide you every step of the way. So book your free consultation with me at onlywomenentrepreneurs.com. Check out our awesome short form content on TikTok. Just look up Only Women Entrepreneurs. If you want to be featured on the podcast or simply want to reach out to me, follow us on LinkedIn as well to join our community of aspiring women who are challenging their lives for the better. Only Women Entrepreneurs is here to provide the tools, resources, and inspiration you need to make your dreams a reality. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Thanks so much, Rosemary.